mail-order bride rejected for being Patchy's skin. Until a kind man saw her beauty, Elena lived in a small, quiet town surrounded by rolling hills and dusty roads, the kind of place where everyone knew each other's birthdays, and news traveled faster than the wind. It wasn't a rich town, not by any means, but it had a warmth to it that made people cling to it even when life was hard. Elena loved her town in some ways. She loved the mornings when the sun spilled gold over the fields, and she loved the smell of fresh bread from the bakery every evening. But she also knew that her future here might be limited. Elena was 25, with hair the color of dark chestnuts and eyes that shone bright even when she was shy. Her smile could light up a room, but for years she had hidden behind scarves, hats, or long sleeves. Her skin, though, had always been a source of worry. From her teenage years, she had patches of discoloration that made her feel different from the other girls in her class. Some of them would whisper behind her back or make jokes that were meant to be kind but stung all the same. The worst part wasn't even the whispers. It was the feeling that maybe she wasn't enough, that maybe people would never see past her skin. Her parents were loving and supportive, but they couldn't always shield her from the harshness of the world. Her mother, Maria, often told her, "Elena, beauty is not only what you see in the mirror, it is in your heart, your mind, and the way you treat others." Her father, a gentle man who worked long hours in the fields, would nod and say, "People may judge quickly, my dear, but those who matter will see you as you are." Elena wanted to believe them, and she did, most of the time. But deep down, she wondered if they were only saying those words because they had no choice, because they could not make the world kinder for her. Elena worked at a small sewing shop in town, helping make dresses and alterations for neighbors. It wasn't a glamorous job, but she liked it. She liked the way threads wove together to make something new and beautiful, like a tiny piece of magic in her hands. She liked that her work helped people celebrate moments of joy, weddings, birthdays, anniversaries. Yet she longed for more. She wanted a life that stretched beyond the limits of her little town. She wanted love that was real, a love that didn't shrink away at the sight of her skin. One evening, while sitting under the old oak tree near her house, Elena thought about her dreams. The sun was dipping below the horizon, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and orange. She hugged her knees and let her thoughts wander. What if she could meet someone who saw her, really saw her, for everything she was and not just what she looked like? What if she could leave this town and find a new life where she was valued and loved? It was then she remembered a flyer she had seen in the town square a few weeks ago. It spoke about mail-order brides, people from distant countries looking for companionship, friendship, and sometimes love. At first, Elena had laughed at the idea. She thought it seemed strange, almost like a storybook, too perfect to be real. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized that maybe it wasn't so strange after all. People all over the world were searching for happiness, for someone to share their life with. Maybe she could find that too. The next day, Elena went to the library to research. She wanted to understand everything about this world she had barely imagined. She read stories of people who had found love across oceans, of women who had left everything behind to start anew, and men who were looking for companionship in earnest. Each story stirred something inside her. It wasn't just hope, it was determination. Maybe this could be her chance to rewrite her story. She spent weeks preparing. She wrote letters that spoke honestly about who she was, her interests, her dreams, and the little things that made her laugh. She described her love for music, how she would sing softly while sewing, how she dreamed of traveling, learning, and creating a home filled with warmth and joy. She tried to find the words to explain her insecurities too, about her skin, about how she sometimes felt invisible, but she balanced it with the hope that someone would see past that. Elena had to face a difficult decision. She could hide her appearance, using only flattering photographs, or she could be completely honest, even if it meant rejection. Her heart urged her to be honest. She didn't want a love that was built on lies, even small ones. She took a deep breath and chose courage. She took the photos in natural light, without filters or editing. She smiled with her eyes, showing her real self. Then she sent her letters to several men, waiting with a mixture of excitement and fear. Days turned into weeks. The silence that followed each letter was heavier than she expected. Sometimes she imagined that a letter might arrive at any moment, and her heart would leap with hope, only to fall again when the post came and went with nothing. Her family noticed her anxiety. Maria would bring her tea and sit quietly, holding her hand, reminding her that patience was a form of courage too. Her father would tell her, "Life is like planting seeds. Some take longer to bloom, but when they do, they are more beautiful than you imagined." Despite the uncertainty, Elena refused to give up. She kept writing, kept sharing her thoughts and dreams, and little by little a few replies began to come. Most were polite but distant, and some hurt more than others. There were men who wrote that she was too different, that her appearance made them uncomfortable, or that they were looking for someone else. Each letter stung, but it also taught Elena resilience. She began to understand that rejection was not always a reflection of her worth. It was simply the way of the world, and she had to keep searching until she found someone who could truly see her. Then, one afternoon, a letter arrived that was different. The handwriting was careful, warm, and thoughtful. As Elena read the words, her heart lifted. The man writing did not mention her skin or her appearance at all. He spoke about her letters, about her thoughts, her kindness, and her humor. He asked questions about her life, about her dreams, and about the small joys that made her days bright. For the first time, Elena felt seen in a way she had only hoped for. She read the letter again and again, a smile spreading across her face, lighting up her eyes. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of the change she had been waiting for. That evening, under the same oak tree where she had dreamed before, Elena held the letter close to her chest. The wind whispered through the leaves as if encouraging her, and she felt a warmth that had little to do with the sun. It was the warmth of possibility, the kind that makes a person believe that love is not just a fairy tale, but something real, something she could find. She realized that the road ahead might be challenging, that she might face more doubts and fears, but she also knew she had the courage to keep moving forward. Elena went to sleep that night feeling a strange mixture of excitement and nervousness. The world felt bigger now, full of unknowns, but also full of promise. She had planted a seed of hope, and though she could not see how it would grow yet, she felt it within her, strong and persistent. In her dreams, she imagined meeting someone who would look at her and see her heart first, her soul, her spirit, and the beauty that had always been there, waiting to be noticed. And so, Elena's journey began, not with fanfare, but with a quiet determination. She would step into the unknown, holding her past close but not letting it define her. She would keep her heart open, trusting that someone out there would see her for all that she was. And most importantly, she would learn to see herself with the same kindness and courage she hoped others would offer her.
Elena waited for replies to her letters with a mixture of hope and anxiety.
Each day she checked the mailbox, her heart racing as she imagined a letter finally arriving from someone who could see her for who she truly was. Some days were filled with excitement, others with disappointment. Many of the letters she received were polite but distant, and some cut more deeply than she expected. The first rejection was from a man named Peter. His letter began politely, complimenting her writing, but as she read further, she felt her heart sink. "I'm sorry," he wrote, "but I think we are not a good match. I prefer someone with a more even complexion. I wish you all the best." Elena read the words over and over, feeling a strange mix of shame and anger. She had known her skin was different, but seeing it written so plainly made it feel real, like a barrier she could never cross. She crumpled the letter and put it in the trash, trying to convince herself that it didn't matter. Days later, another letter came from a man named John. He was polite, asking questions about her work and hobbies, but the letter ended abruptly, with no warmth or hope. "Thank you for your time," he wrote. "I don't think we are right for each other. Good luck." It was short, almost dismissive. Elena felt a pang of loneliness. She had poured her heart into her letters, shared her dreams and fears, and in return she was met with silence or polite rejection. Despite these setbacks, Elena refused to give up. She remembered her parents' words, that true love and worth were not measured by appearances. She continued writing, telling herself that the right person would see her heart first. She described the small joys in her life, the way sunlight filtered through the windows of her sewing shop, the sound of birds in the morning, the laughter of children playing in the streets. She wrote about her dreams of traveling, learning, and creating a home filled with warmth. She poured herself into every letter, hoping that someone, somewhere, would understand. Weeks turned into months. Some letters were hopeful, others were cruel. One man, Thomas, wrote that he could not look past her skin and ended the letter with, "You are too different from what I expected." Another, Michael, said that while her letters were interesting, he did not feel a connection. Elena began to feel tired. The constant rejection weighed on her, and sometimes she wondered if she had made a mistake. Maybe she should have hidden her skin, used better photos, or simply accepted that love might never come for her. But even in her doubt, there were small victories. Occasionally, a letter would arrive that made her heart lift. Some men asked questions, showed curiosity, and engaged with her thoughts. These letters reminded her that not everyone would judge her for her appearance. They gave her hope that someone would eventually see her as she was, kind, thoughtful, and full of life. Elena's parents noticed the toll that rejection was taking on her. Her mother, Maria, would sit with her in the evenings offering comfort. "Elena, don't let their words define you," she would say softly. "You are brave, and you are beautiful in ways they cannot see." Her father would nod, adding, "The right person will come, the one who sees your heart first. Until then, we are proud of you, and that is what matters." These words were like gentle anchors, keeping Elena from drifting too far into despair. One particularly difficult day, Elena received 3 letters in the same week. Each one rejected her in different ways. One said she was too plain, another said she was not the type he envisioned, and the third ended with, "I'm sorry, but I cannot see past your appearance." Elena sat at her sewing table, tears spilling over her cheeks. She felt as if the world had closed its doors on her, and for a moment she wondered if she would ever find someone who could truly love her. Yet as the tears fell, she also felt a quiet strength growing inside her. She remembered the morning spent under the oak tree, dreaming of someone who would see her for who she really was. She remembered the moments when her parents' words had lifted her, and she realized that she could not give up. Not yet. She wiped her tears, took a deep breath, and began writing again. Elena poured her emotions into her letters, speaking honestly about her fears and hopes. She wrote about the pain of rejection, but also about her determination to keep trying. She shared stories of her life in the small town, of the friends she cherished, and of the dreams she held close. She wrote about her love for the simple things, the way rain sounded on the roof, the smell of fresh bread, the joy of finishing a beautiful dress for a customer. Slowly, a few letters began to stand out. There were men who didn't comment on her skin at all. They asked questions about her life, showed curiosity about her thoughts, and expressed genuine interest in knowing her. These letters were like rays of sunlight breaking through a stormy sky. Elena felt her hope returning, not as a fragile wish, but as a quiet, steady belief that someone would see her for who she truly was. One letter arrived that changed everything. It was from a man named Mark. From the first words, Elena could tell he was different. He spoke about her letters with warmth and interest, asking thoughtful questions and sharing his own stories. He wrote about his life, his work, and the small joys that made him happy. He laughed at the same things she found funny and seemed to understand the emotion she had shared. For the first time, Elena felt a sense of connection that went beyond words on a page. Mark did not mention her skin. He did not comment on her appearance. Instead, he focused on her thoughts, her humor, and her kindness. He appreciated the way she expressed herself and seemed genuinely interested in knowing more about her life. Elena read his letter over and over, feeling a warmth in her chest that she had not felt in months. For the first time, she believed that someone could love her for who she was, without judgment or hesitation. Excited yet nervous, Elena wrote back to Mark. She shared more about her life, her family, and her dreams. She asked him questions about his experiences, his thoughts, and the small details that made up his daily life. Their letters began to flow more naturally, with each exchange building a connection that felt real and meaningful. Elena looked forward to each letter as if it were a lifeline, a reminder that there was kindness and understanding in the world. As their correspondence continued, Elena noticed a change within herself. She began to feel more confident, more hopeful. The rejections that had once felt so heavy no longer defined her. She realized that her worth was not tied to someone else's judgment, but to her own heart and the love she could give. Writing to Mark reminded her that true connection came from understanding, respect, and shared values, not appearances. Her friends in the town noticed the change as well. Elena smiled more, laughed more freely, and carried herself with a quiet confidence that had been missing before. They asked her what had happened, and she told them about her letters, about the people who had rejected her, and about Mark, the man who made her feel seen. Her friends were happy for her, cheering quietly as she navigated the slow, delicate process of building trust and hope. Yet even with this newfound hope, Elena remained cautious. She knew the path ahead would not be easy. She had faced so much rejection already, and she knew that meeting Mark in person would be another challenge. There were uncertainties, fears, and what-ifs that lingered in the back of her mind, but the difference now was that she felt ready. She had learned patience, resilience, and the importance of valuing herself. Elena's days were filled with anticipation and preparation. She continued her work at the sewing shop, creating beautiful pieces while dreaming of the life that might be waiting for her. She spent time with her family, cherishing their support and love. And she wrote letters to Mark, each one deepening their connection, each one a reminder that someone out there could see her heart, not just her skin. Slowly the town began to feel smaller, not in a negative way, but in the sense that Elena's world was expanding. Through her letters she had found a window to a wider life, a life filled with possibility and human connection. She realized that the journey was not just about finding a husband. It was about discovering her own strength, resilience, and ability to love and be loved in return. And so, Elena waited, not with fear or desperation, but with hope and quiet confidence. She had faced rejection, felt the sting of judgment, and yet she continued to reach out, to believe that someone would one day recognize the beauty she carried within. The letters from Mark became a symbol of that hope, a reminder that kindness, understanding, and true connection were possible. Elena's journey was far from over. She still had many letters to send, many responses to receive, and a world of unknowns ahead. But for the first time, she felt that she could face whatever came next with courage, patience, and an open heart. The road was not easy, and the challenges were real, but she had discovered something far more important: the ability to see herself as worthy of love. Respect. Elena could hardly contain her excitement as she opened Mark's latest letter. Every word seemed to glow on the page, carrying warmth and a sense of understanding she had never experienced before. He didn't just respond to her thoughts, he built on them, shared stories from his own life, and asked questions that showed he genuinely wanted to know her. For the first time in months, Elena felt the heavy weight of rejection lift, replaced by a cautious but growing hope. She read and reread his words, smiling at little things he mentioned. He talked about his work in the city, the quiet mornings he enjoyed with a cup of coffee, and the small hobbies that brought him joy, like painting and gardening. He wrote about the simple beauty in life, the same way Elena loved noticing the sunlight on her sewing table or the sound of birds at dawn. It was as if he had entered her world, understanding her without judgment or hesitation. That evening, Elena sat under her favorite oak tree, letter in hand, letting the cool breeze brush her cheeks. She thought about how different this experience felt compared to the other letters she had received. Instead of focusing on her appearance or dismissing her personality, Mark had shown genuine curiosity and respect. He had made her feel that her thoughts, her dreams, and even her fears were worth listening to. For the first time, she truly believed that someone could see her as she was, inside and out. In the days that followed, their letters became a constant in Elena's life. She began to share more personal stories with Mark, opening up about her childhood, her family, and the quiet struggles she had faced growing up. She told him about her insecurities with her skin, how rejection had made her feel invisible, and how, despite it all, she still dreamed of finding someone who could accept her fully. With each letter, Mark responded with empathy and encouragement. He reassured her that the people who rejected her had only failed to see the beauty she carried within, and that he valued her honesty, her courage, and her heart. Elena found herself looking forward to Mark's letters more than anything else. She would finish her work at the sewing shop, tidy up the store, and then sit down with pen and paper, imagining what he might write. Sometimes she would pause, thinking about how lucky she was to have found someone who made her feel so understood. At night she would dream of him, not in some distant, imagined way, but as a real person whose words had touched her heart and made her feel alive again. One afternoon, Elena received a letter that made her heart skip a beat. Mark had written that he wanted to meet her in person. He suggested a place halfway between their homes, a quiet town with a small inn, where they could talk, share a meal, and get to know each other face to face. Elena felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. The thought of meeting someone she had only known through letters was both thrilling and terrifying. She worried about what he would think of her appearance, whether the connection they shared in writing would translate into real life. Her parents noticed her mixed emotions and offered their support. Maria held her hand and said softly, "Elena, you have been brave every step of this journey. You have been honest and true to yourself. Mark has already seen your heart. Meeting him will only be another step in your story," her father added. "Do not let fear guide you. Trust in yourself and in the kindness of the people who see your worth." Elena nodded, feeling their words steady her nerves. She realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward despite it. As the day of the meeting approached, Elena prepared herself carefully. She chose her outfit thoughtfully, not to hide herself, but to feel comfortable and confident. She brushed her hair, took deep breaths, and reminded herself that Mark had already shown respect and appreciation for who she was. She packed a small bag with essentials, including a journal, a favorite scarf, and a few handmade gifts from her sewing work, small tokens she hoped would show her thoughtfulness and creativity. The journey to the meeting place was long and filled with anticipation. Elena rode the bus through winding roads, watching the landscape change from familiar fields to new towns she had never visited. With each mile, her excitement grew, but so did her nerves. What if Mark didn't like her as much in person? What if the connection they shared in letters felt different when spoken aloud? She tried to calm herself, repeating the lessons she had learned over the months: patience, self-respect, and courage. When Elena arrived at the small inn, she felt her heart pounding in her chest. The town was quiet, with cobblestone streets and small shops lining the main square. The inn itself was charming, with flower boxes on the windows and a warm, welcoming atmosphere. She walked in, her hand slightly trembling, and asked the receptionist if Mark had arrived. The receptionist smiled and nodded, pointing toward a small table by the window. There he was, Mark, standing and smiling, just as she had imagined, but more real than any letter could convey. Mark stood as she approached, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. They simply looked at each other, taking in the presence that had previously existed only in words. Elena noticed the kindness in his eyes, the gentle way he smiled, and felt her nervousness begin to ease. Mark extended his hand, and she shook it, feeling a warmth and connection that words could not fully capture. Then, almost instinctively, they both laughed, the tension breaking as if it had never existed. Their conversation began slowly, with small talk about the journey, the weather, and the town itself. But soon it deepened, moving into stories of childhood, hopes for the future, and the experiences that had shaped them. Aylin found herself speaking freely, sharing the same honesty and openness she had poured into her letters. Mark listened attentively, nodding, asking questions, and offering reflections that showed he truly understood her. As the hours passed, Elena felt a sense of ease and comfort she had never experienced with anyone else. Mark's presence was reassuring, his attention sincere, and his laughter genuine. They shared a meal, laughed at small jokes, and even walked through the town together, enjoying the simplicity of each other's company. The connection they had built through letters now felt tangible, real, and stronger than either of them had imagined. At one point, as they sat on a bench overlooking a small river, Mark turned to Elena and said softly,
"I've never met anyone like you."
"Your honesty, your kindness, and the way you see the world, it's extraordinary. I feel lucky to know you." Elena felt her cheeks warm not out of vanity, but because for the first time someone was expressing admiration for her heart, not her appearance. She realized that the fear and self-doubt she had carried for years were slowly fading in the presence of genuine acceptance. Elena and Mark spent the entire day together, discovering shared interests and learning about each other's lives. They talked about dreams of travel, favorite books, music, and even the small joys of daily routines. Each conversation revealed more of the person they had grown to know through letters, but now with the added depth of shared experience, Elena felt a sense of belonging and understanding that was rare and precious. By the end of the day, as the sun dipped low in the sky, Elena felt a mixture of exhaustion and happiness. She knew that this was only the beginning of their journey, but it was a beginning filled with promise. Mark had seen her heart, her thoughts, and her spirit, and had embraced them fully. In turn, Elena had allowed herself to be vulnerable, to show her fears and hopes, and had been met with kindness and understanding. On the bus ride back to her small town, Elena reflected on the day. She realized that the months of letters, the rejection, and the waiting had all led her to this moment. Each experience had taught her resilience, patience, and the importance of self-worth. And now she felt a quiet joy that came not just from meeting Mark, but from knowing that she could be loved for who she truly was. Elena returned home with a renewed sense of confidence and hope. She shared the story of her meeting with her parents, who smiled and embraced her, proud of the courage and honesty she had shown. Her mother said, "See, Elena, your heart was always enough. The right person only needed time to see it." Her father added, "This is only the beginning. Take it slow, enjoy it, and trust in the bond you are building." Elena nodded, feeling a deep gratitude for the lessons she had learned and the journey she had taken. In the weeks that followed, Elena and Mark continued to correspond through letters, phone calls, and occasional visits. Their bond grew stronger, rooted in respect, trust, and genuine affection. Elena discovered a sense of peace she had never known before, a confidence that came from being seen and accepted. She began to dream not just of love, but of a shared life filled with mutual support, laughter, and understanding. Elena's heart had been fragile and wary, shaped by years of rejection and self-doubt. But through her connection with Mark, she discovered that vulnerability was not a weakness. It was a bridge to connection, trust, and love. She realized that true beauty was not measured by skin or appearance, but by the courage to be oneself and the ability to see and honor the beauty in another. Elena had been writing to Mark for months, and the excitement of their first meeting still lingered in her mind like a warm light. But as the idea of taking their relationship further became real, a wave of nervousness settled over her. She had already crossed one great distance, from her small town to a larger world through letters, and now she faced the next step, leaving the familiar behind and traveling to live in a place that was almost entirely unknown to her. For weeks, Elena prepared quietly. She spent hours packing and repacking, trying to balance practicality with comfort. She included her favorite clothes, a few small handmade gifts for Mark, and a journal in which she had written down her hopes and fears. Every decision she made was careful, each item chosen with thought. She wanted to be ready, not just physically, but emotionally. She reminded herself that courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to move forward despite it. Her family was both supportive and anxious. Her mother, Maria, fussed over her constantly, offering advice and gentle reminders. "Be yourself, Elena. Speak honestly and listen with your heart. That is the only way this can work." Her father, who rarely spoke much but whose presence was always reassuring, said simply, "You are strong. You have faced much already. Trust in yourself and in the goodness of people." Elena hugged them both, feeling their love as a shield against the uncertainty ahead. When the day came to travel, Elena's emotions were a swirl of excitement, fear, and anticipation. She boarded the bus early in the morning, the sky painted in soft pastels as the sun rose. Each mile that passed took her further from the life she had always known, and each mile brought her closer to a future that had once seemed impossible. She gripped her small bag tightly, taking deep breaths as she imagined meeting Mark again, this time not through letters, not through screens, but face to face in a life that could be real and lasting. Mark met her at the station, his familiar smile immediately putting her at ease. He had been waiting patiently, his own excitement visible but tempered by gentleness. When Elena stepped down from the bus, their eyes met, and a quiet understanding passed between them. No words were needed at first. They simply walked toward each other, the connection they had built through months of letters bridging the distance seamlessly. The next few days were filled with a mix of excitement and nervousness. Mark showed Elena his home and workplace, places that were new and fascinating to her. She saw the city through his eyes, noticing details she might have missed if she had been alone. Every small interaction, every shared meal, every story told felt like a brick building their foundation of trust and connection. Elena was learning that love was not just about words or letters. It was about shared experiences, understanding, and presence. Yet, even in this newfound comfort, Elena could not ignore the whisper of doubt that lingered in the back of her mind. She worried about whether she would be accepted by Mark's friends and community, about whether her skin would ever become an issue, and about whether she was truly ready for this leap into a new life. The months of rejection had left scars, and although she had grown stronger, some fears had not entirely faded. One afternoon, as they visited a local market, Elena noticed a subtle glance from a woman in a shop. The woman's eyes lingered just long enough for Elena to feel the familiar sting of judgment. For a moment she felt the old insecurity creep back in, threatening to overshadow the joy of the day. Mark noticed her hesitation immediately. "What is it?" he asked softly, taking her hand. Elena shook her head, trying to dismiss it, but he insisted, "You can tell me. Whatever it is, we'll face it together." Elena took a deep breath and admitted, "Sometimes I feel judged. People see my skin and not me. I worry that it will always be a barrier." Mark squeezed her hand reassuringly. "Elena," he said gently, "I see you. Not just your skin, not just your smile, not just the surface of things. I see your heart, your strength, your kindness, and your courage. That is what matters to me. Do you understand?" Elena nodded, tears brimming in her eyes, feeling the weight of years of insecurity lift slightly. For the first time in her life, someone looked at her and saw every part of her, and loved it. That evening, back at Mark's home, they sat together on the small porch overlooking the city lights. The air was cool, and the quiet hum of distant traffic made the night feel safe and intimate. Elena shared more about her fears, her past rejections, and the moments when she had felt invisible. Mark listened attentively, never interrupting, never judging, simply holding space for her words. His presence was a balm to her soul, reminding her that love was not meant to hurt, but to heal. Over the next few weeks, their bond deepened. They spent hours walking in parks, cooking meals together, and sharing stories of childhood and family. Elena learned more about Mark, his dreams, his passions, his small daily joys, and felt a growing certainty that she could trust him with her heart. She began to see herself differently, too. The months of self-doubt and rejection, which had once weighed heavily, now seemed like lessons that had prepared her for this moment. She had learned patience, resilience, and the importance of valuing herself. Then came a moment that tested that resilience. Mark invited Elena to a gathering with his friends and colleagues, a chance to meet the people who were important in his life. Elena's heart raced as she prepared, imagining all the ways she could be judged or rejected. She worried that her skin, which had caused so much pain in the past, might become a topic of conversation, a source of awkwardness, or even ridicule. She confided her fears to Mark, who held her hand and said, "We face it together. I want you to be with the people I care about. They will see what I see, you in all your beauty. The gathering began, and at first, Elena felt the familiar tension of being judged. Some people looked curiously, and she felt her insecurities rising. But then Mark introduced her warmly, sharing stories of their letters, their connection, and the qualities that had drawn him to her. Slowly, the atmosphere shifted. His friends and colleagues began to see Elena through his eyes, as a kind, intelligent, and genuine person. She laughed, shared stories, and engaged in conversations with a confidence that surprised even her. By the end of the evening, she realized that the fear she had carried for years was fading, replaced by a quiet pride and self-respect. A few days later, Mark and Elena took a quiet walk by the river, reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. Elena spoke about the letters, the rejection, and the moments of doubt that had shaped her. Mark listened, holding her hand and nodding. "Elena," he said, "you have faced so much with courage. Your strength, honesty, and heart are more beautiful than anything I could have imagined. I am grateful to know you, and I am honored to love you." Elena felt tears of joy spill over. In that moment, she realized that love was not just about being accepted. It was about being seen, understood, and cherished for everything one was, flaws and all. As they continued to walk, Elena noticed a sense of peace she had never known. The months of letters, the journey across towns, and the months of uncertainty had all led to this. A real, tangible connection with someone who valued her entirely. She felt her heart open fully, without hesitation, knowing that she was worthy of love, happiness, and acceptance. Mark and Elena began to plan their future together. They spoke about the possibility of moving closer, sharing a home, and building a life filled with mutual respect, laughter, and understanding. Elena felt a sense of excitement mixed with calm certainty. She had faced rejection, fear, and uncertainty, yet she had emerged stronger and more confident. The challenges she had faced had not diminished her. They had prepared her for a love that was deep, real, and enduring. One evening, as they watched the sunset from a small hill overlooking the city, Elena reflected on her journey. She had started as a young woman unsure of herself, afraid that her appearance would forever stand in the way of love and happiness. She had faced rejection after rejection, endured moments of doubt, and yet she had continued to believe in the possibility of connection. And now, as she stood beside Mark, she realized that she had found something far greater than she had ever imagined. A love built on respect, understanding, and genuine admiration. In that quiet moment, Elena made a promise to herself. She would never again let fear or doubt overshadow her worth. She would embrace her life fully, celebrate her strengths, and continue to open her heart to love and kindness. She had discovered that beauty was not defined by the surface, but by the courage, compassion, and resilience that lived within. Elena woke up one morning with a feeling she hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. The kind of peace that comes not from certainty, but from knowing that she had taken the right steps in her life. The journey she had begun months ago, with letters and hope and quiet courage, had led her to a place she had never imagined, yet it felt like home. She stretched, smiling at the sunlight streaming through the window, thinking about the path that had brought her here. She remembered the first letter she had sent to Mark, trembling as she pressed it into the envelope, hoping someone would see beyond her skin. She remembered the months of rejection, the polite refusals, and the harsh words that had made her doubt herself. She remembered the quiet evenings spent under the oak tree, dreaming of love that would see her heart first. And now, she was here, in a new city, with Mark beside her, building a life together in a way that felt both thrilling and natural. The first weeks living together were a mix of learning and laughter. Elena discovered the rhythm of their shared life, the morning routines, the quiet evenings, and the small, ordinary moments that suddenly felt extraordinary because they were shared. She learned to navigate a new city with its bustling streets, unfamiliar faces, and different customs. At first it had felt overwhelming, but Mark's patience and support made each day manageable. Together they explored markets, parks, and small cafes, savoring the simple joys that life offered. Elena also found time for herself, She continued her passion for sewing, creating beautiful pieces for herself and small commissions for friends and neighbors in her town. She realized that her craft was more than work. It was a source of pride, creativity, and joy. Mark often admired her skill, watching her hands as they moved gracefully over fabric, and he would always tell her how talented she was. Hearing this from someone who truly cared lifted Elena's confidence even more. But the true growth came from within. Elena began to see herself in a new light. The insecurities that had haunted her for years, the fear of judgment, the worry about her skin, the lingering doubt about her worth, were slowly fading. She realized that the love she had found with Mark was not about perfection or appearances. It was about being seen, understood, and cherished for who she truly was. This awareness gave her a freedom she had never experienced before, a lightness in her step and a confidence in her voice. One afternoon, as Elena walked through a nearby park, she noticed a group of children playing with a ball. She paused to watch, smiling at their laughter and joy. It reminded her of the small moments of happiness she had often overlooked in her own life. The simple beauty of a sunny day, the laughter of friends, the warmth of family. She thought about how far she had come, from the young woman hesitant to show herself to the world, to someone who had embraced life fully, knowing her worth. Elena also wanted to help others who had faced challenges like hers. She began volunteering at a community center, meeting people who struggled with self-esteem, rejection, or fear of being judged. She shared her story, speaking about the months of letters, the rejections, and the moment she realized that true beauty was in courage, kindness, and authenticity. People listened, inspired by her honesty and her resilience. Through these interactions, Elena realized that her experiences, painful as they had been, had given her the strength to support others and make a positive difference in their lives. Mark watched Elena grow with pride and admiration. He saw how she embraced her new life, how she radiated confidence and joy, and how her kindness touched everyone she met. He often reminded her that he had loved her from the beginning, not because of appearances, but because of her heart, her spirit, and the way she faced the world with honesty and courage. Elena would smile, feeling a warmth that went beyond words, knowing that she had found a partner who valued her completely and sincerely. As the months passed, Elena and Mark's bond grew stronger. They faced challenges together, navigating a new city, balancing work and personal life, and learning to communicate openly and honestly about their feelings. Each challenge they overcame strengthened their connection, deepened their trust, and reinforced their love. Elena realized that love was not only about happiness, but also about resilience, understanding, and shared growth. Elena also made time to nurture her passions and friendships. She joined a local sewing group, met new people, and shared her skills and experiences. She realized that her talents, combined with her life experiences, gave her a unique perspective that others valued. Her confidence grew not from external validation alone, but from the knowledge that she was capable, creative, and worthy of respect and love. One evening, as they prepared dinner together, Mark turned to Elena with a gentle smile. "Do you realize how far you've come?" he asked. Helena laughed softly, shaking her head. "Sometimes I still remember the letters, the rejections, the doubts. It feels like a different life." Mark took her hand and said, "Yes, but every step led you here. Your courage, your patience, your heart, they brought you to this life. And I am grateful every day that I get to share it with you." Elena felt tears prick her eyes, not from sadness but from gratitude and the deep joy of being fully seen and loved. Elena's parents were also thrilled to see the transformation in their daughter. They visited the city to meet Mark and see the life Elena had built. Her mother hugged her tightly, whispering, "You were always enough, Elena. I am so proud of the woman you have become." Her father added, "You followed your heart, and it led you to happiness. That is the greatest gift you could have given yourself." Elena felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that she had honored her own journey and embraced the opportunities life had presented. As time went on, Elena and Mark began planning for the future. They spoke about shared dreams, such as traveling, creating a home filled with love and laughter, and supporting each other in their personal and professional goals. Each discussion was filled with excitement, trust, and mutual respect. Elena realized that the love she had found was not fleeting or superficial. It was enduring, built on understanding, patience, and shared values. Elena also reflected on the lessons she had learned. She understood now that rejection and judgment were not reflections of her worth, but of the limitations of those who could not see her fully. She had learned to embrace her uniqueness, to value her courage, and to trust in the people who truly mattered. She had discovered that true love recognizes the soul, celebrates resilience, and cherishes authenticity. One sunny afternoon, Elena and Mark took a quiet walk along the river. The water sparkled in the light, reflecting the sky above and the sense of calm and happiness they felt together. Elena stopped for a moment, looking out at the flowing water, and thought about her journey, from a young woman filled with doubt to someone who had faced rejection, embraced hope, and found a love that saw her heart. She felt a profound gratitude for the challenges she had overcome, the lessons she had learned, and the love she had found. Mark turned to her, taking both of her hands in his. "Elena," he said softly, "I want you to know that I love you completely, not just for what you do or how you look, but for the person you are, the courage, kindness, and heart that you share with the world." "I am honored to be part of your life." Elena felt a warmth in her chest that words could not fully express. She realized that she had found not only love, but a partnership built on respect, understanding, and shared growth. Elena smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "And I love you too, Mark," she said. "You have shown me what it means to be truly seen and accepted. You have helped me believe in myself, in my worth, and in the beauty of love that comes from the heart." They embraced, feeling a deep connection that had been nurtured over months of letters, shared experiences, and mutual respect. In the months and years that followed, Elena continued to grow, both individually and as part of a loving partnership with Mark. She built a life filled with creativity, kindness, and purpose. She continued to share her story, inspiring others to embrace their uniqueness, face challenges with courage, and believe in the possibility of genuine love. Elena had found not only a partner in Mark, but also a deeper understanding of herself, her worth, and the beauty of authenticity. Elena's life had changed in ways she could never have imagined. She had traveled from a small town, faced rejection, and endured moments of doubt, only to find a love that celebrated her entirely. She had learned that beauty is not in perfection, but in resilience, courage, and the capacity to give and receive love with an open heart. And as she walked hand in hand with Mark, watching the sunset over the city, she knew that her journey had led her to something truly extraordinary, a life filled with love, acceptance, and joy. And so Elena's story, which began with hope and uncertainty, reached a place of fulfillment. She had faced the world's judgments and emerged stronger, wiser, and more radiant. She had discovered that true love sees the soul, not the surface, and that self-acceptance is the key to lasting happiness. With Mark by her side, Elena embraced the future with courage, gratitude, and a heart full of love.